Hello everyone, today we're going to be building a very special project. This diorama is dedicated to the brave men and women who fought and died during the Second Battle of Fallujah in the fall of 2004. We're going to discuss the techniques I used during this project, as well as covering some of the history of the battle. This project personally means a lot to me, as I served in the United States Army, and is just a small way for me to ensure the memories of our fallen brothers and sisters are honored and remembered. The kit we're using for this project is Tamiya's M113A2 Desert version. Tamiya makes a fantastic kit which is highly detailed, and there were no issues with the assembly. The kit included several additional items such as rucksacks, ammo boxes, and other various add-ons. I also added a few 3D printed accessories to make the vehicle as close as possible to my reference image. As you can see, Tamiya made sure to focus on all the small details in this kit. The base of the kit is this bathtub style hull, and the kit features two well cast figures that we're not going to use in this diorama, but they are cast very well and only have minimal seam lines that would need to be taken care of. As you can see, all the details are cast cleanly without any flash or glaring ejector pin marks. The sprues are clearly marked, and they include several small detailed pieces that really help to make the kit feel more realistic and immersive. Even the rucksacks are modeled really well and help to convey the sense of how much gear soldiers carried every day. They included multiple tarped items as well, which is a huge time saver as we will not have to scratch build those items today. And here is the kit fully assembled. I chose to focus more on the building of the diorama and the detailing of the vehicle for this video, as I want the final product to be the main focus of this project. You can see I added a couple of 3D printed accessories, including field stretchers and a back stabilizing board to the build specific to the variant we are recreating. The variant we are recreating today is the M113A4 Armored Medical Evacuation Vehicle. Here you can see that we have black primed the entire vehicle, and we're going to start out by adding a little bit of a darker paint color and more of a mottled pattern on the side. This is going to add depth to the paint and help give the illusion of fading and wear and tear over the time in the sun. As I apply the mottled paint, I'd like to share with you a little bit of the history of the M113 family of armored personnel carriers with you. The M113 family of vehicles was developed in 1961 by the FMC Corporation. The vehicle was initially developed as an armored personnel carrier, but rapidly proved to be an extremely adaptable multi-purpose vehicle for the United States Army, serving in roles from infantry support to combat ambulances. The vehicle served in every United States conflict from Vietnam to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The vehicle we're constructing specifically is the M113A4 Armored Medical Evacuation Vehicle in the Battle of Fallujah in 2004. The vehicle was later replaced by the M1133 Medical Evacuation variant of the Stryker family of vehicles. The armored ambulance's primary role was evacuating injured personnel from the battlefield under heavy enemy fire safely. The paint we're using for the modeling effect is Tamiya XF59 Desert Yellow, with a few drops of Tamiya XF69 NATO Black added to darken the color. We're doing this so we can get the desired effect. This technique is often used by aircraft modelers to help add realism and specifically bring attention to smaller details such as individual panels. When using this technique, you want to apply the paint in as random a pattern as possible, with varying intensities over the applied areas. This will add dimension to the finished paint scheme and help create the effect of the paint wearing in a non-uniform manner as it does in real vehicles. We're not applying any paint to the storage items on the top of the vehicle with our airbrush, as we'll be hand painting them later in the build with a few various colors. We will also be applying weathering effects to them when we weather the rest of the vehicle as well. The primary color we are using for the vehicle is Tamiya XF59 Desert Yellow, thinned down at about 60% thinner ratio. This allows us to apply a thin enough layer to the vehicle as to not completely cover all of the previous modeled effects while still unifying the surface. The paint on many of the vehicles used in the Battle of Fallujah and the early war in Iraq was not tremendously faded, as the United States had fairly recently painted them in a desert tan color rather than the previous standard NATO 3-color camouflage schemes that predated the global war on terror. As such, most of the vehicles were in decent shape and free of significant rust or paint damage. It was not uncommon, in fact, to see vehicles deployed to the region still in the traditional NATO 3-color scheme, still awaiting their new desert paint. Many soldiers deployed to the area also had not been completely equipped with desert camouflage gear, and you could often see soldiers in desert camouflage uniforms with green body armor. I want to take this opportunity to thank our Patreon members. Your continued support makes these projects possible, and we really appreciate it. Here we are applying a layer of flat rubber black paint to the exterior of the road wheels of the vehicle. These wheels are made of a steel inner wheel with an outer rubber layer that helps prevent track wear. You can see I intentionally left the black base coat much more visible under the skirts of the vehicle in order to illustrate the depth of that section, as well as to help create artificial shadows. This technique also helps to differentiate areas that have a series of strong textures such as air vents or radiator screens. The process essentially acts as an early pen wash and helps to create separation between parts. While I continue to work on the detailed painting in the background of the video, I'd like to share a little bit of the history about the Second Battle of Fallujah with you. The Second Battle of Fallujah occurred in the fall of 2004. It was initially codenamed Operation Phantom Fury by U.S. and coalition forces and was an effort to retake the central Iraqi city from insurgent forces. The city was held by approximately 1,500 insurgents that gained significant foothold of the area following the transfer of control of the city from the United States Army's 82nd Airborne Division in April of 2004. However, by September of 2004, coalition forces considered Fallujah the highest priority to retake due to the amassing of insurgent forces in the area. The coalition forces amassed approximately 13,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and marines to retake the city. The battle commenced on the evening of the 7th of November 2004. Coalition forces, in coordination with United States Special Forces operators, fought to capture the Fallujah General Hospital, the ING building, and various villages opposite to the Euphrates River. These actions were a diversionary action intended to disrupt and confuse insurgents in the city in preparation of the main offensive to begin. The main offensive began on the northeast and northwest sides of the city as Navy Seabees and Army engineers cut power to 2 electric substations as coalition ground forces began clearing the city through intense house-to-house clearing. The battle continued to wage in brutal clearing operations from house to house with support from the United States Air Force. Coalition forces progressively cleared the city of insurgent forces over the next 6 days, with most ground fighting coming to an end on November 13, 2004. Sporadic fighting continued, however, throughout the city until December of 2004. Here you can see that I've made a simple mask for the white medical Red Cross symbol. The kit did not come with the masks for this or the decals for these images to the vehicle, so we're going to have to do the very best we can to freehand them onto the vehicle. I do apologize that the quality of the logo is not going to be the very best, but we're going to do the best we can with what we have available. The mask is made from simple blue painter's tape available at any big box store such as Walmart, or you can get it on Amazon, and cut to an appropriate size based on the vehicle size and our reference image. I did hand paint the Red Cross symbol, but it turns out my hand was blocking the shot, so I do apologize that we're skipping straight to the mask removal in the video. I allowed the paint to dry for approximately 15 minutes before removing the mask to prevent any leakage or smearing of the colors onto the base color below. I think that the overall result came out pretty good, with nice clean edges that we're going to muddy up a little bit just so that we can match the reference image. As you can see in the reference image we're working from, the vehicle has considerable dirt and dust buildup on the side. This is of course more pronounced on the white and red areas, as the vehicle's base color is similar to the shade of dirt and dust that have built up. We're going to recreate this effect the best we can by applying and blending thinned layers of the dust color onto the side of the vehicle. The color we're using is a thinned and darkened version of the Tamiya XF59 Desert Yellow. We darken the paint by adding a few drops of German yellow and a light earth brown. This was then thinned by about 25% in order to allow easier blending on the vehicle without completely covering the cross area. We're going to go ahead and take a couple different brushes. This one is a stiff bristled brush that's a little bit old and worn out, just to kind of help rough up the surface and allow the paint to be spread and blended properly. And then we're going to use a little bit different brush and just kind of work on blending it into the areas we want, to the coverage reaches where we want it. Overall, I think the effect isn't perfect, but it's close enough for what we can do with the tools we have available. Now we're going to apply the water slide decals from the kit. These are not the exact same markings in our reference image, but we're attempting to create more of a tribute to the original vehicle than a reproduction. The decals are great quality, and with the help of a little bit of Mark Fit Strong, easily adhere to the surface texture. Overall, I think Tamiya did a fantastic job on the quality of the decals, and I'm very happy with the end result. The last thing we're going to apply to the vehicle is some thin 0.5mm copper wire that I straightened with a drill to recreate the vehicle's antennas. The vehicle in our reference image is shown to have two antennas, so we're going to go ahead and place the wires in the same locations and attempt to get the same shapes. I adhere the wires to the vehicle using just a small amount of CA glue, putting them into the provided mounts. The wires were then painted black, and that finishes up the vehicle construction portion of our build. Now we're going to start working on the diorama base. We're going to use some standard insulation foam from our local hardware store. I cut this with a sharp hobby blade to approximately the size I needed, and sanded the sides with a modeling sanding stick. You can also use a two-sided nail file for this as well. Make sure to start with a medium grit sandpaper as well, as a low grit tends to damage the foam rather than sand it. I started with 150 grit and moved on to finish with 220 grit. We're now going to texture the base to simulate ground texture. This was done with a household lighter. Make sure you wear a respirator during this process, as the foam releases some rather nasty fumes that you don't want to inhale. We're only going to change the shape slightly, as we are recreating a dusty desert environment. The next step in creating our diorama is to apply a mixture of Mod Podge and paint. This will establish both the base color as well as seal and protect the foam base from further weathering products we'll use in the steps further down the road. I also applied a small amount of gravel to the mix, but forgot to hit record on that step. The last step we're going to apply is a dry brushing of a deck tan color. This is applied lightly on a damp brush, and then the excess is removed on a clean paper towel. You want to remove almost all the paint from the brush, so you only apply the paint to the raised edges in the form of a highlight. In the case of our diorama, this will represent the lighter dust that settles on top of the sandy surface. Then we will apply a layer of black to the base's exposed sides, and we're ready for the glamour shots.